Yes.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. I always want to like start rapping or something. That's the East New York Brooklyn to me. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for coming to our June meeting. It looks like we might have a smallish group today, so we're going to push through. We thank you for being here and participating. We have a new member at the table on the youth board, Mr. Peter McCree. If you want to.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you at the youth board. Just to give you a little bit of history of myself. I spent the last 35 years in the IT industry as an entrepreneur, owned multiple businesses. I'm now sort of semi-retired and living in Brooklyn, and wanted to just get involved with some activities where I think I could make a difference, and hopefully I could do that here at the youth board. Thank you.
Great. We will put you to work. Welcome, Peter. Thank you so much. So I guess we will turn it over to the commissioners. The commissioners. Oh yeah, sure. I'm always nervous about it because we've heard the time, but yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jordana Lee, and I in Advocate Center, and I run a free performance series at the David Robinson Nutrient.
And part of the executive.
Oh, and I'm part of the executive board.
Hi everyone, my name is Nia Jones. I've been on the board, I guess, for about maybe about 2 years and a half or so. And I recently had a little one who you'll probably hear me talk about. And I'm just very happy to be a part of something that does such wonderful work. So thank you.
Sorry, hi Bill. Chris.
Hi.
I'm the president of the New Barbara Berman Foundation, and I'm vice chair of the committee. And Walden, we're so happy to have you.
Hi everybody, I'm Patty Macker, and I've been on the board, I guess, a year. And also, my other side of my life is I am the executive director of Futures and Options, which I think many of you have heard about. We do career development in New York City for mostly high school students. It's fun to be here and learn about everything else that's going on in the city. You do this.
Hi, sorry. I was too busy being transgressive and bringing in food and drink in front of the sign that says no food or drink.
Well, those signs are moot now because we changed the carpet, and so it doesn't stain anymore. So we should take the signs down.
All right, well, there I was, Bill, being transgressive as ever. I'm Nancy Waxstein. I've been on the board. I was appointed by Mayor Bloomberg back in probably over 10 years ago. I'm at Fordham University now, after a long career in nonprofit.
I'm Sarah Marks. I'm DYCD staff person in external relations and intergovernmental relations.
Courtney Ramirez representing ACS.
Good morning. My name is Karen Larson, and I was appointed a few years ago as a student representative, and I started working, and now I'm actually a student again. So I'm going to be starting graduate school at Princeton in a few months.
Congratulations. What do you study?
Public policy.
Maureen O'Connor, I'm a library consultant. Before I retired, I was the chief operating officer at Queens Library. And I think I've been on the board about as long as Nancy, about 10 years. Yeah.
George Huston, Vice President, Community Engagement at Health First. We're an insurance company. We insure 1 out of every 8 people in New York City.
Anthony, DYCD, Deputy Chief of Staff.
I just introduced myself as Peter McCree, but I'll introduce myself again to the folks that just came in. I'm a new board member starting today, and I'm not affiliated with anything. I'm actually retired, but as I say, a former IT executive for 35 years.
Hi, I'm David Fisher. I'm the Executive Director of the New York City Center for Youth Employment.
So,
I'm Jackie Chang. I'm the director. Hi, I'm Jackie Chang. I'm the director of engagement at Recess Arts, and we are
a visual arts organization that bringing together unlikely partners to be introduced to the arts, and right now we are focused on a alternative to incarceration program.
Okay, so the report in your packet will, I think, is a good starting point, but I'm not going to repeat that. I'm going to talk about things that have happened since the report was written. Yesterday, there was a handshake agreement in the city's budget for fiscal year 2019, which starts July 1st. So we're still sifting through the details. I have a press advisory, which, some of the stuff didn't make sense, but I'll tell you what we think is in the budget for next year. And I said a year ago, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be consistent for the remainder of this term, that the days of an exponential growth, where our budget doubled from FY14 to FY18, are probably going to be behind us. But we're going to see modest and strategic growth in key areas. So one of the things that there's been a lot of advocacy, both internally and by the First Lady, has been expanding services for homeless gay youth. So in the new fiscal year, we'll have another $3 million to, for the first time, provide residential services for homeless youth between the ages of 21 to 24. Historically, the state law limited these services to young people between the ages of 16 and 20. So the majority of young people who are homeless between the ages 21 to 24 are housed in shelters at the Department of Homeless Services. Now, the big difference is that our programs tend to be much smaller. They're home-like. They tend to have 20 young people in a facility. The Department of Homeless Services is going to be bigger. Sometimes 100, maybe more young people per site. We're not in a situation where DYCD can carry the load completely. I testified before the city council a few months ago, and they wanted to mandate us to do it, and I laid out the figures. There are 2,200 young people between the ages of 21 to 24 who are in Department of Homeless Shelter, Department of Homeless Service shelters. 1,400 of them are women with children. We hope they are family shelters, and then 800 are single adults. So when I told them the dollar figure, I think they all kind of choked. Our bed per bed cost is about $50,000. So to serve 2,200 young people, it would be $110 million. So they passed the law, and the law said DYCD shall serve some. I've never seen a law that says some. So we're going to be adding 16 new beds, serving 21 to 24-year-olds. We're going to probably do accelerated request for proposal, an application among existing providers, and hope to have services on sometime next spring. So that's pretty certain. The other things that are in the budget and press announcement, which we're trying to confirm, one was additional $8 million for a Compass, which is a comprehensive after-school system programs. There's been a situation, particularly in elementary programs, where there's chronic waiting lists. Some programs have waiting lists, and each year the council has given us money to add additional seats during the school year. It's unclear what that $8 million is. I'm suspecting it's that to deal with chronic waiting lists. There's been a lot of advocacy by the nonprofit sector to have universal after school for elementary students. Something which is the mayor's acknowledged is needed. It costs $210 million. So this might be an attempt to at least address this issue, at least among the existing programs. Because we now have universal after-school programs for middle school, and we have 523 programs, and we just added 28 this year with additional money to add to schools that became eligible because they had the middle school grade. So I suspect $8 million. And then there's a surprise item there. Well, not so surprise is money for 5,000 new summer jobs. It concerns us because we're at the limit to how many jobs the nonprofit community can absorb. We went from 23,000 in 2013 to 70,000 last year. So we were anticipating 3,000. So I haven't even circled back with our staff to see how we're going to handle this. There will certainly be late starting dates because the first.
It's the middle of June already.
I know. Well, we're gonna do. I mean, a couple of years ago, we got money for 20,000 jobs, and so we made the case for the funding to be baseline because we know that the more stable the funding is, the better the planning can be. We can start to match it between young people and their experiences and the job. So the 5,000, I think it's going to, a lot of young people will be absorbed into summer camps, given this late date. It's unclear whether the 5,000 is going to continue next year, but, and then the last thing, and then I'll take questions, is we have, surprisingly, 9 million for literacy, adult literacy. Which is a big surprise, because I just had a meeting yesterday with the Coalition for Adult Literacy in this room, and all of us were not expecting to see any baseline funding for adult literacy, which is a key program not only for immigrants, but for native speakers who don't have a high school diploma. And the majority of people in public assistance at HRA who are required to work don't have a GED. So how can you find a job if you don't even have a GED? So we're trying to get more clarity on that, but that's definitely the most exciting piece, right? Anthony can tell you, he worked on the Coalition for Adult Literacy before he came to the dark side, right?
Dark side?
Yes. That's what the advocates call us, is the dark side, right? Well, that was the Bloomberg administration. Maybe it's the bright side now. So that's the highlights of what we know at this point, which the handshake agreement was at 6 o'clock last night. So as we get more details, we'll share them with the board. You had a question?
I did, and I know it was really about the 5,000 new summer jobs. Is there any flexibility in that? And I'm saying this, and David knows this has been a passion of mine. We have the summer jobs for vulnerable youth, but if there were year-round positions for vulnerable youth, I mean, that would be so much more efficient, I think. I don't know if there's any flexibility.
The short answer is no.
Okay, gotcha.
Because when the council designates something, they designate it as a specific purpose. But we have other year-round internship programs like we were renamed the Young Adult Internship Program, which I know ACS.
Yeah, it's just that a lot of those programs don't. They ask the young person to be out of school, right? And so we have some vulnerable youth who are in school, who are in school who need year-round, opportunities. So I'm just putting that out there for us to consider at some point.
Other questions?
Bill, what happened with the summer camp slots as a former member of the advocacy community?
I didn't see it in the announcement, so we're trying to get more clarity.
Yeah, I mean, there were I think the people were advocating for
Baselining.
34,000
Right.
summer camp slots.
Right. It's a long and confusing history,
I know.
which I can share with people after the meeting. I didn't see it in the announcement. That doesn't mean it isn't there. It might be they chose to highlight certain things and not others. So once we get more details from OMB, we'll certainly circulate it to people.
And do you know who in the council was the champion for the adult literacy money?
Councilman Menchaca.
Yeah, Coach Menchaca. Yeah,
And he's really an advocate, but I think Danny Drum, who's now the budget chair, but was the education chair, he understands it has someone who was a former teacher. So maybe the combination of Menchaca and Drum did it. Again, it says baseline. The way this is written in the announcement, it could be. It precedes the baselining of compass, right? So if they did a poorly written sentence, they should have done a separate bullet point. So that's why if it's 1 year, it's great. If it's if it's baseline money, it's even better because then we can start redesigning the model and looking because we increase the reimbursement for nonprofits in probably a decade. And quality cost. Anything else on the budget? And just a couple of things I want to touch on before the discussion. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I said to the staff a year ago when I said exponential growth is behind us, that we need to focus on impact and strengthening partnerships. And because this question came up actually at the Citizens Employment event I spoke to that David had organized. Somebody asked the question, well, we know the recession is going to happen at some point, right? Just many of us have been around, and someone asked the question, what are you going to do when, with all this huge investment that's been made in DYCD programs, what's going to happen? So I said something which I said to the staff a year ago, we need to figure out how to storm-proof the house. We built the house, how do we storm-proof it? And the way I see storm-proofing it is one is to focus on impact and quality, less on scale. Because if you can show the impact these programs have, not in just in the short term, but in the long term, I think when it comes down to the next wave of budget cuts, people have to think long and hard about, is this penny wise and pound foolish? Because 94 cents out of every dollar we get goes out the door. It's not like the huge bureaucracy. We have small, hardworking staff. The second thing is, how do we amplify the work? And that's where partnerships, and that's where I think the youth board and youth committee can play a role, because you all have networks that help and amplify the work we do. There are a couple of things that in the last week that I just want to showcase of how we're trying to amplify the work. One is last Thursday, which was, I think, Chancellor's Day, so it was a school closing day, all the schools were closed. We organized with the fire department open houses at firehouses. So I went to one in the Bronx, and we had groups of young people, both elementary and middle school, who've never stepped foot in a firehouse. In fact, I've been on this earth for 60 years. I had never stepped foot in a firehouse. And so there's a real effort on the part of the fire department to reach out to communities that historically they haven't reached out to, partly because they want to build a career pathway for young people as they try to diversify the department. And so it was interesting. I'll tell you this one story. Firefighter Cologne, who led the tour, and I asked him, how old were you when you thought you wanted to be a firefighter? He said, 9. So I said, tell that to young people. That's what they need to hear. Because if they can see Firefighter Cologne was big, say he wanted to be a firefighter at 9, it helps, again, open the doors to what's out there, which is part of what we want to accomplish in our programs. And then yesterday, I met with the head of the Museum of Moving Image. Because one of the things we wanted to do is that we do wonderful work, a lot of visual stuff. Somebody will talk about the Sonic Film Festival and being a judge, and also our Step It Up. I think someone who wants to Step It Up, he'll talk about that. But yeah, it ends up on our YouTube page. Nobody goes to our YouTube page. Every time I go to the YouTube page, it's like 300 people. So it's like the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody sees it, did it really fall? And so part of what I wanted to do is leverage and amplify the work we do, and then the work that young people do. And so the Museum of Moving Image was really excited about working with us. We're going to figure out how to align what they do with what we do for the next school year. And so, again, what I'm really pushing the remaining 3.5 years of this term is less about money and growth, but how do we begin to build what I call common sense partnerships. That, where there's a natural synergy between what other people do. And so one of the last things I'll talk about, and then this is something that I know I'd like to talk to Futures and Options about, is that we're starting a work group in the fall among our after-school programs and our workforce program. How do we begin to plant the seeds of career awareness and exploration in the middle school programs? And I understand that you guys have started doing work in this area. We'd love to hear from you, see what we can learn from that experience. Because we have, like I said, 523 programs, and I'm meeting with Classroom Inc., which has a virtual curriculum that does career exploration. But the more resources we can put into middle school to begin to start that conversation and their exploration about careers is something that we definitely want to focus on. And it might just not be money, it might just mean partnerships. So I'll just end with them. If any other questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Well, we do have a middle school curriculum, and we do have, it's called Career Essentials. It's for middle school, for high school, and it's for, it's an after-school program, after school.
We should talk afterwards, because we definitely looking at why we invent the wheel.
Yeah, it's there. It's got good actions and we talk.
Okay.
We love partnerships.
Thank you, Commissioner. So next we're going to move to the engagement updates, and I guess first on the list is the Sonic Film Festival. So I know Sandy, you were a judge this year, so if you would like to tell us about it.
Sure. I was really impressed.
And me as well.
I was really impressed with the talent of middle schoolers. I think some of the issues that I was really impressed with the talent of our young people, of our middle schoolers. Some of the issues that they were concerned with, that almost across the board, was also kind of painful. A lot of issues around bullying. I mean, that came out like constantly, issues of bullying. But also other societal issues, Parkland killing, about gun violence, and then other just young people stuff. That was also important. Just their own curiosity and thinking about their space, or just fictional type of characters. So I thought it was a good look into what young people are thinking about. So I think I encourage people to volunteer next time so you can see it. The only caution I have is that it was overwhelming. I think altogether it was like 78 videos that you had to screen. And after a while, I was trying to make out time, and I felt like I wasn't doing a real good service because it became like repetitive. Some of the same, bullying issue would keep coming up in a different ways. It was hard to then compare them. Well, was that other one really better or good? So it's a challenge. I've never done this type of evaluation, so I just felt like whether I was giving them real good fair shot, but I did the best that I could. But I encourage people to try it next time.
Sure, I think Jackie.
Yeah, I did it too. So what I noticed was how creative that young people are using Medium today. I was the director of education at Brick, so I've seen a lot of media from young people all over the city for years. But for this round, and there were a lot of submissions, I was kind of surprised by some more practical use of the medium, creating mock commercials, also kind of like how-to. There were some about how to be professional. I like seeing going in that direction. There were lots of creative narratives, but kind of combining those ideas as well. And I'm very excited to see that.
I will echo those comments. I think as a judge, it was really interesting to see, we serve youth on this board, and it was really interesting to see what they care about. So a lot of the topics that came up were really, interesting, and that they were talking about their community. A lot of entries were about growing up in the Bronx, growing up in certain areas of town, which was really eye-opening. And also to speak to the children's creativity, they are really creative. They were editing these videos, to my understanding, and they really took the time to come up with, there was a whole script and text, and some of the students even made a video to song about investing. And so topics that range from anything from, here's a day in the life of living in a certain borough, to investing, to, anti-bullying, to historical context of Rosa Parks and things like that. So I would encourage people to do it. It is, somewhat time consuming, so you have to, use your, structure what works best for you, but it's certainly worth doing to see, why who we're serving and what they care about, and that's why it was so beneficial to me.
I wanted to add one thing. I also want to commend putting together this kind of festival, because it actually encourages some standard of excellence, and I think it's really important in these programs to be able to instill that, so that they can learn from each other, and that they can see, this is equality, peace. It becomes really insular when they're just within their community, especially at this age, where they're ready to kind of bust out and they want to see other things. And this is a really, really great opportunity for them to be able to share with each other and kind of open up their universe a little bit.
So I had the opportunity of attending the Step It Up competition. Can you hear me? No? So yes. Okay.
Please work. Want to try?
Hello? I had the opportunity of attending the Step It Up competition, actually with my family, and the message that my 9-year-old asked me to to convey to the commissioner was, why isn't there a snippet of junior for the little ones?
Don't we hit elementary? We do, right? Elementary, middle, and high school.
I did.
Oh.
I said, I think there were some younger children in there. And she's like, I'm not so sure, but
But it's
I think you should ask. And I took that question as to show both her excitement for what she saw on the stage and in the audience of people supporting each other. And I definitely want to echo your comment. I mean, the standard of excellence of performance and the pieces and the messages that young people were conveying. The theme was anti-bullying. And each of the teams were so compelling and powerful and individual. And so we...
Do you know who won? I mean,
I do know who won, and it was...
one year it was like Bronxworks, I think, won both competitions, but they haven't won in a few years.
No, I think it was... Oh, I don't want to say who it was in case I get confused.
We'll send it out.
Because they were all absolutely fabulous. We were so moved and excited. And so, you know, I think there are many ways to engage on the board, and this is certainly one of the incredible opportunities to see, you know, the staff and their love and support and the work that's gone in, and the young people and their families and how they supported each other from all 5 boroughs.
1,400 people.
Yes.
We moved it to the Brooklyn Academy of Music.
It was at BAM, and it was undoubtedly a full house and an excited house, and it was the most lively I've ever seen BAM. I was like, wow, this is what should be happening at BAM all the time. So I, you know, just my compliments, and absolutely encourage you all to engage in any one of the many, many opportunities, because the richness of the programming that DYCD offers is pretty almost astounding, and we'll talk about that later, but really wonderful. So I think, yes, we have update from the programs committee, and also Anthony.
Here you go. This is just a brief update. At our last program committee, we kind of did a NYC City Government 101, and Anthony and the team kind of reviewed a huge org chart of the entire New York City government. It was actually amazing. I went back to my office and showed everybody. It really kind of demystified everything for us, and I think that's, again, the point of the program committee, is diving deeper and understanding a little bit more about the background about what goes on in our city. We also had a presentation by Eduardo Laboy on the Interagency Coordinating Council. I know our board members are really interested in how DYCD works with other agencies, taps into them to help our youth, and it was a great presentation.
And then I'm going to give a quick report back on behalf of Ana Garcia Reyes, who couldn't join us today from Closest Community College. At the end of the last board meeting, she approached me and said that, you know, one of the things that she's able and willing to do at HOSOS is to help arrange college tours for young people in our funded programs. But that also being an important thing that we can expose young people to the college and the career track. So after the last meeting, we reached out internally to see who was interested, and a few of our students employment program providers were interested in that. So I think they're still in the process of trying to set up some of those tours over the summer and move forward. So, you know, again, you know, thanks to Ana Garcia Reyes for proposing that. And I think, again, it speaks again to another type of partnership that the board and the committee can enter into with us, and which will be the main topic of discussion for the rest of this meeting. So, more to come. I'm sure Ana Garcia will more to report back on that in the future meeting.
Thank you. So next, I think we're going to be moving on to the kind of discussion part of the agenda around committee planning. So just to kind of frame up this part of the discussion, first I'd like to thank our executive committee, Jordana, Liz, and also youth board member Jeanette Rodriguez, who couldn't be with us today, for really doing all this work over the last couple of months. And the purpose of it was really to ensure that we could continue to both hone and identify your interests as individual board members, identify the resources that are available at this collective table, and also, continue to create and support the most meaningful engagement as a youth board and as a youth committee members. And so we wanted to send out a survey to all of you to, continue to ask more questions so that we can begin to get some more clarity around how to make this engagement better and kind of continue to support the programs and work of the agency. And so we're going to have a presentation around reviewing kind of what the collective the messages that resulted from the survey, and then many board members have asked for a slightly different format of being able to engage with each other more. There's so much experience and interest at this table, and often we are able to, we get these great presentations around the program, but not enough time to really engage with each other and really set some kind of clarity around goals and activities that maybe we want to take as a board. So the whole purpose of kind of this section of the meeting will be to review the survey and then to have breakout rooms. And they're going to be on different issues, and everyone please feel free to self-select, and it's really a time to get your ideas on the table and maybe begin to prioritize a little bit what you're interested in. And hopefully the goal would be to leave the meeting with some clarity around maybe some individual things that you would like to do as an individual board member, and maybe as a group, things we'd like to prioritize. Because as you'd imagine, we have a diverse array of interests, and we've got to hone that down since we only meet four times a year. So that was the work of the committee over these last couple of months. So thank you all for participating in the survey, and thank you for your candor and interest and enthusiasm in these next discussions. So I guess.
So I'm just going to do this real quick, just really high level results of the survey. Again, thank you for everyone for responding to it. And there's definitely a lot more detail to this, but this is a quick high level key points of the survey. So we got a total of 15 responses, which is good to see. And what I'm going to go through here is just 3 slides, and those of you who replied will be familiar and recognize some of these questions. So, we kind of want to take the temperature, the pulse of everyone on the youth board, youth committee. And, from this question, are you happy with your current role on the YBYC? Generally speaking, I think we're on the right track, right? About 70% of you said that you are satisfied with your level of engagement and the content of these meetings and the board and the committee are correct. And of course, there's always room for improvement. And that's really what we're going to be looking to do moving forward. We also asked on the survey, how would you like to get more involved? And as you can see from this chart, there's a range of interests about what you want to get involved in moving forward. I would say that many of you are already very involved in very direct ways. I think what we're talking about, similar to the Commissioner's point earlier, is how to continue to amplify the work that we do together. And I think definitely in the breakout groups that we'll be getting into shortly, definitely bring your ideas in. I know from talking to many of you directly and just knowing your interests and knowing what we have happening here at the agency, there's definitely, I think, ideas that have surfaced already. So I would say in your breakout groups in a little bit, think about that. I know some of you say, okay, I could help get more work sites for ladders, for leaders, or SYP. But then there may be some other things we could do collectively. I think our goal today is try to make a choice and say, okay, what do I want to put my time into in the coming year, right? And then finally, this question really relates to the fact where I think the executive committee was actually really interested in having for today be a longer session, actually a 3-hour session, a more immersive planning process. We had reached out to some potential facilitators for today. Unfortunately, they weren't within our budget, so we couldn't secure that, but I think we do want to reserve the option to have a more, even deeper facilitation, at some time in the future, maybe even as soon as this summer. But the point of this question was really to get at all your interests, the members of the committee and the board, on going through a longer, deeper process. And it was encouraging to see that a majority of you said that you would be interested in that. I think, the question then becomes finding the date with time. But I think even though we were not able to secure a deeper facilitation today, I think what we've set up for today is a step towards that. And we can build on what's discussed today and then make a decision collectively about whether we want to have a further process. So with that, I'll turn it back to Alexa, who I think will tell us about the breakout groups.
Great, thank you. So we are going to have three groups, and the first group is directly engaged with youth, right? So it's around this thing. The flashing lights behind me. Direct volunteerism. And the next group will be the programs and administrative support for DYCD. And so this is really around using resources and networks to identify the space for DYCD events. And this is just, we broke it out into three broad categories. Really interest in direct volunteerism, more around kind of programs and administrative support, broader discussion group. And then the third group is learning and engagement. There was a lot of interest also that surfaced as a result in the survey and also in conversations around board members wanting to engage more with each other. So this is both how to increase and leverage board engagement, both either socially or in different programmatic ways. So the three groups are direct volunteerism, program administrative support, and learning and engagement. So I guess we can have one, yes.
I'm going to say who's speaking what.
Oh, right. Thank you, Anthony. What can I do without you? I don't have
Okay. So if I recall off the top of my head, for the direct engagement, again, that's being able to work directly with young people, student career panels, what have you. I think that Alexa, it's yourself.
Yes, that's fine.
And Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. The second group around supporting program administrative support of DYCD, that's going to be Liz and myself. And then the final group on continued ideas about board engagement, that's Pradana and Andre.
So I guess the first group, direct volunteerism and engagement will be up here.
Okay, the second group in the middle, and the third group over here. And then I think we want to have a 5-10 minutes to spread out.
That's right. So we have about 20. We have about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Discussion. It's okay. We're already a little over time, and then we'll have a 5-minute report back. And please know, I mean, this is a self-selection, but this is just the beginning of the conversation, and there'll be opportunities to continue to kind of move around. This is to get that kind of conversation going.
Yeah, just to second what Alexa said from the executive committee. This is just for you to brainstorm in one of the three groups. We definitely expect and we're sure that you'll be engaging in all of them at different times. But it's just lending your ideas and thoughts on maybe some concrete ways forward in each committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Passive least resistance, right? So let's see, I know this is the hard part. Making the choice.
Anthony.
So what will continue.
I'll take whoever wants to do the engagement part. I'll take you actually down here. We'll go down here. So this is like engagement with the board and it's a program. Yeah.
I know Anthony's supposed to be co-leading.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, which is good. I think we're all kind of cross over. We just try to
different ways of, I think the ultimate goal is to have the key goals for the next year. Okay. And different ways that we can all be working towards the same direction.
Okay.
So I think that's what we would.
Yeah, sure. Good. Any structure?
Well,
I'm Jordan.
Well, it's Reynolds. I'm back to the workforce development board. I'm also associated with the workforce development board. So the youth committee is a part of the details of working here.
What we're trying to do is to figure out, what I thought here now and how do we try to select and are we loving camps? But how do we share that information? How do we connect? How can we have different opportunities for engagement? You know, it's really everything from making people feel more involved in programs. So like I know that when we did we went to the cycle that was down in East Village with some of the after school programs that we did. That kind of gave a whole clarity to me being a newer member, like, oh, this is something that's a direct impact. I'm seeing that involvement. So there, and I've been going to some of the program meetings just to kind of better understand. DYCD is so gigantic and has so many different impacts. And then I also think, you know, every time I come to this meeting, I'm always like, oh, this person does this person does this, and there's so many things that I have no idea how, and you know, I feel still disconnected. So I think that's one of the things is just trying to figure out how we can be more both engaged with the programs that happen through DYCD and also how to be more engaged in this room.
I think the challenge is the fact that
So Eric knows about it.
4 times a year. Yeah, so if you miss a meeting, right, you're totally disconnected from what's happening, and so maybe trying to figure out, schedules are very difficult, but trying to figure out how can we be connected to each other.
Yeah, he's a big fan of yours.
And what kinds of activities can happen. I know that, yes, there are occasional opportunities, but maybe kind of trying to space those out so that they fill in some of those gaps. Intentionally. Yeah.
Jump too far. Please do it. I came in a little late. I'm Reynolds. I'm policy associate with the workforce development board.
It's okay. Yeah, you're good. It's okay. So Jordana and I were getting looking some the performance series.
I'm Andre Joseph. I'm special advisor here at DYCD.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, just like you said, kind of figuring out what is what they ask you strengths are, so you're thinking, oh, art is great for me. If I know that I can draw on that, when I'm thinking about what event to do and things like that. But I do feel, so this is probably my problem, I've stepped away from music, but I do feel kind of like I don't know people as much as I would like to. So like everything kind of, so like I know we have the bios, but if there's an additional kind of connecting or networking, and I don't know what that looks like yet, but where I can say like, I know we have someone this weekend, I know we have this, I know we have this, there's an event coming up, how can we leverage that a bit more? And I know I think it's pretty much what you're saying, what everyone's saying, but I just feel sometimes like you said, there's you meet like, you know, I missed the first meeting because it was snowing, so I'm like, oh, what are we doing? And then I get the email, here's these events, this event, and I'm like, great, but what does that mean when we're, you know, like, you know, what, it just seems, you know, it's kind of coming at you, so, part of my kind of personal goals was to take more like ownership and just be more active in that, but knowing kind of like who I can call, like, you know, just kind of like when you're at work, you know who does what, like, oh, she's HR, oh, she's that, like how we can kind of do more of that, without kind of coming to me like, how are you? I mean, you know, it's a little, I feel the same way. Again, I don't have a solution yet, I have to think through that, I guess that's the purpose of this working group, but,
I think what we need to
you know, that seems to
sponsored,
be part of the
first responded to several
sometimes,
events with DYCD,
how
some
we kind of bridge
some at
that gap.
NYU. I don't know if you're
I
paying
have a
for
quick
that.
question. Since trying to put together
A few other
a calendar
colleges
event
have
today,
actually,
it's very difficult.
sponsored
But
events with DYCD. I don't know if you were paying
how
for
far in
that
advance
space,
would you like to
that
get that information? I know you talked about things are coming to you piecemeal.
Yeah, and it's not a criticism of, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
is that
I was just
by no
wondering.
means, it's probably more on my end,
Yeah.
kind of feeling, oh, this, you know, so it's nothing, it's not a criticism on the administrative side of things, but it's more about like, the piecemeal for me, maybe if it's a standard email at a certain time, or, you know, something, or maybe we have like, where we can log on to something and see like, here's the upcoming events versus like an email, so like, every week we say, here's your password, or, you know, for maybe a week we say, here's this month, here's what's coming up. And then we do like a weekly newsletter, or maybe not newsletter, but then it's like coming into you like every Friday.
Sure.
Or like, so you know, okay, Friday I check my mail and I won't miss it, something like that. That may be kind of easier, so I'm not feeling like I'm missing something or it's just coming because, again, it's not meant to be a criticism by any means, but it's more of a, how do I know I'm not missing anything, and if it's coming, like, I take more time to do it. So some of the things that's worked well in the past, for just communication standpoint, was like a set newsletter and a set, it doesn't have to be fancy, but like once a week, or twice a week, whatever the need is, it doesn't have to be weekly. And then also, like, if I feel like I'm personally slipping, I can log on to something and say, like, okay, here's what I need to know, you know, without kind of having to log through all the emails. So like how, for the community.
So again, I think this is an example of maybe something that I know this is.
You know, password protected, something
Are
like
there
that.
certain
It makes a lot of sense to me, but I also want to be like cognizant of like not creating too much work
Right, and that's
for you
why
guys
I
as
was like,
staff.
you don't want administratively.
But I just, for me personally, I don't know if this would be helpful. Even just, you know, I don't know, a month or two in advance, even if it was just the calendar was for the, like for the special events, we could come across and we could decide whether or not we could come or not. But I pay a lot more attention to something when it's embedded in my calendar versus I missed that email and now it's too late and oops, I missed that. Right? So that even if it's the calendar notice popping up, you know, and saying, hey, if you want to attend, let us know. Like an invite. You know, exactly. I mean, that way it's not, I mean, I think what you described would be ideal, right? But I also recognize you got a lot of other responsibilities that to create a newsletter for us. But even if it's just, you know, right now I get something that pops in my calendar as an event July 14th or whatever day, then I can, you know, even, you know, up until the week of, I'm looking, oh, yeah, I am going to go to that. Right? And now it's on my calendar.
It sounds like what would be maybe helpful is if like the executive committee and we meet with you guys and then we determine maybe like a handful, like a half a dozen events in the next like 6 to 8 months that we could identify that are key events to attend. And then if we could do it in advance, like maybe at least 3 months in advance, we could say, okay, in September, there is this key event that we want to do, or we're hoping that a group will come to. Maybe then we can do something like that where we say, you know, we're going to have over the next 8 months, we're going to do 3 hours, not 9 months, we're going to do 3 hours once every 3 months. And so kind of in between the quarterly meetings, right?
And I think the quarterly thing works. So like for me, calendar, it's not, you know, calendar events, but like the quarterly, like here's January, February, March events, there's so that probably could go with the theme of quarterly meetings, right? So like that could tie in, which would be hopefully, you know, something easier to do. And I'm happy to help you. You know, I use kind of my, we can talk about what I can help you guys do, or even from the side of the administrative leader to connect. But yeah, I mean, I think the quarterly, you know, like the quarterly coming in advance, that way.
And so maybe like at these board meetings, we could say the next, between now and September, there are all these events coming up. We're identifying this key 2 events or 1 event that we're hoping to get a mass to. And, you know, I was thinking, so I missed the boat on the Step It Up program. So I would hope, and with my own schedule and my own lack of follow through. I was hoping to organize like a group of people to come see that event and like maybe have drinks before or something to, as a chance to get to know each other. So maybe if there's some event that we can go to, I mean, maybe there's something, everything from, we can do something where we actually go to a youth event, or maybe there's just something, if somebody's doing something really interesting at one of their spaces that we can all just get. Would it make, I guess my question is, would it make sense for us to do something that's not related to, or a youth event, just a chance for us to meet? Do you think people would come, or do you think they would be more leverage if you're like, here's a youth board event, and then let's all go for coffee afterwards or a drink afterwards, like, for example, like going to the site visit of the after-school program, and then saying, okay, that was like a 4 to 5 meeting, now let's all go meet somewhere and hang for a minute to get to talk to each other, or let's go for a drink before a performance of Step It Up, or would it just make sense, like it's people's schedule, I don't know what's a better.
I think in theory, people would want to say they would come, and then it gets there, and people, like kind of like anything, so it's always easier if there's an event already, and then people can, you know what I'm saying, like our plan would come like today, oh, let's have breakfast and after, it's the add-on, but I think, we can serve, that's just.
Yeah, I mean, I
didn't. I just know like getting people there is always easier if you have.
Not something to anchor it.
Yeah, something to anchor.
But there'll be real, besides just to share. That's what I'm asking, I'm trying to, what would be the most engaging way to get people to participate? Because I mean, everyone's got really busy schedules. And it's, I'm thinking, given what I've heard today, with folks, I think folks are more likely to participate if they have a role or a responsibility to that. So, when it's, Courtney, can you get to this site visit? I would love to go, and then everyone's doing something else. I can't go, right? Versus, granted, there will be times when there's no empty on my breath, I can't go, right? But there's other things, but if I have a certain responsibility, I don't know what that is, right? With that event, whether it's, judging, films or whatnot, right? So then you're more likely to participate. Even I think I'm already liking this meeting as opposed to previous meetings, right? Where I felt like I don't care if I'm actually in there or not, right? Because it's a lot of report outs, but if they're not necessarily relevant, I mean, I don't want, that's not the point, right? If I haven't had a stake out or responsibility in being there, I can always catch up on the minutes, right? But figuring out the nature of the meeting is a little bit more engaging, and there's an expectation and accountability that, so we're going to report out when we come back to the meeting about what events you participated in, what's happening with whatever, right? I think that it will keep folks more actively engaged, and it'll speak to the issue about getting to know each other, right? Because we get to know each other's personalities, where you're from, tell me again, oh, what do you do? That sort of thing. Kind of delineating what those roles, responsibilities, and report-outs look like, I think is challenging, but I just think having a commitment that there will be opportunities where we'll be more actively engaged with each other.
And I think the board mandate to say you have to participate in
It's really engaged education. There's no mandate in that.
Be more aware.
I do hear what you're saying. I mean, because I was thinking that too. I was thinking about how do you get, I hate mandates, and I think it's good that you can engage as you so. I like that, actually. But on the flip side, how do you hold people accountable to showing up and networking and I'm not saying that people do that. I'm probably guilty of doing that, actually, particularly in that. But how do you have people be and dating or doing, so that's kind of like bridging that, because like in your job, you do something, your boss like, you didn't do that, so how do you feel? And again, it's, how do you kind of bring those two things together without, I don't believe, I'm not saying mandate, but I'm just saying,
Somebody at a
hold people
administrative
accountable
level,
to
but not
what
top.
showing
So we
and
talk
reporting
about
out and being
what is it
involved.
that we do that
And a
dovetails
more
with what we
clear
do.
way.
So a lot of times it
Because I know, like, for
libraries,
instance,
stuff
I've
like
been
that,
kind of like, okay, you know, sometimes because I've particularly when I,
Right,
you know, have a little one, but when I decided to be the judge, I mean, I was like, oh, these are so many hymns, but I have to do it because, you know what I mean? Of course, like accountability, is like, and I loved it, every second of it, you know, but it was that feeling of like, I want to do it anyway, and I would do it, you know, so how do you kind of, like, you had a deadline. I had a deadline. I know that people were counting on it, and I was like, you know, accountability, and how do I do that with everything that I do for this board? It's what I would love to continue, because it was a good lesson for me, like, hey, continue that, you know.
Really, I'm thinking about the fact that folks sitting at the table, right, all come with their own strengths and assets and things that make us at least somewhat attracted to participate, right? So maybe it's a matter of kind of figuring out how to fit those assets with the needs of you guys as staff and figuring out how we could participate. Because it might be something like judging, but it might be on more behind the scenes type of work, right? And I mean, I'm just putting that out there, like if it's, I work at ACS, if it's about like, hey, what are we gonna do, have to attract a certain population of young people, right? Courtney, this is our application, can you look at this real quick, or, you know, so we also, so it's almost like partnering up with your staff and our skill set to try to figure out what those opportunities are. And so then again, we have a certain responsibility and role. And I guess the first part of that would be kind of to figure and identify if it's the arts, if it's, you know, what happens, right?
Yeah, and I
where
know
that fits with DYCD.
Been working on that. He's been working on kind of like different departments, like people's different skills and departments and organizations, and how we can kind of individually reach out to people and say, okay, so you're doing this, you know, help us with X role of youth employment or whatever that is. So I know he's been thinking of that, and I know that's part of that group over there is us trying to figure out how we can really leverage more of the support in this room. But it seems like, from what I'm hearing, if we had, maybe it would be also be great then, okay, just kind of, we have a calendar that's every 3 months, right? That's 3 months in advance, and that we can share at these meetings, and we can identify when we share that calendar, one or two key events, maybe even just one event that we're trying to get everyone to come to. That's related to that. And then maybe what we could do to leverage getting people's involvement is have one person be the host for that event. So like if it's the BAM event, the Step It Up, and if I was the host, I would be responsible for continuing to invite people and asking people to come and make sure that I know that I could actually go.
Yeah.
And then I would report back to the room that I, you know, that we win. It was just me and my family, or it was me and 4 other board members, and we ended up having a lively conversation about this. So again, there's the responsibility part, and there's the engaging coming back to the room part that might give us a chance to have, and then a chance to meet and have a little bit more of an organic relationship, because that's what I feel is missing with the reporting back part. Is like we come, we meet, but we don't really, and we don't really know what each other are doing. There's no way to like, oh, you have a, you know, an 18-month-old, oh, my brother just had a, like to have that human bond, and I think that's how business, we're all volunteering time here, so we need to have another bond for how to make that
Absolutely,
step
because we
work.
start prioritizing, right? It's like, yes, I enjoy going to that meeting, I'm going to see, other folks, and that's why that becomes a.
Not fair, people know, Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if we could do that, and I could help with the part of like, or the executive would help with the part of like getting people to actually post. I don't know.
Accountability, engagement, it's voluntarily, like you said, it works for you. I think the most
I would think it's a part of this monthly call for
you can't do it, you can't.
I was just thinking more sort of like
So you guys are like, are you coming, you know, with me, hey, this is, I met this one cool guy, you know, so we're kind of working to advocate for it, you know, start just coming from you guys, you know, we're not saying, just it's more engaging.
What are the events, when they are, and what days.
I like that.
You know, and that's what I was just wondering how to.
And I think the thing with the events is not just space,
And it's
it's
not
also the
mandatory, and
opportunity
it's
for
not
all of you to
mandatory.
participate. Either you represent the youth board, maybe there's a.
Are there,
I mean, this
I
could
mean,
go
so
in
if
so
we-
many,
yeah,
while we're in 3
I
different
agree, like
breakout
that.
rooms, there is some overlap. Just because you're here doesn't mean you don't want to talk to the young people.
I think we have like 81 minutes.
Timing is very important.
If-
So
to
we
make
gotta be
these
very,
meetings
very,
more
very
engaging,
early.
would it
Like,
make
you reached
sense
out to me about interns. So I think first probably have about 40 interns. I have 3.
He said 3 hour meeting.
But I had 1,200 applicants for 3 positions.
I think that was more though. Yeah, it was, I know. I know, but I was also like, like we talked about it, but I also like, I know. It impacted me in the room differently at 8:30 in the morning than it did when I was on the phone abstractly.
Sure. Your interns would get paid the same as my interns, and I make the same sort of
At
opportunities
meetings,
available.
there was an
Just like
opportunity, it was
I
kind of
have to
like,
get
I
clear.
don't know.
So, I think
Member of the
timing is
month,
very,
I mean,
very
that sounds really
important.
cheesy, but you know what I mean?
Sponsorship
But the
is
idea of
DYCD,
kind
I
of
think this
speaking
Saturday or
to your
Sunday.
work,
I don't know if it's
that's
father
some
one or
that's
something.
relevant to DYCD, like would be your time to kind of talk.
So I think we're supplying t-shirts.
Brief,
I don't know.
very brief, right? I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. Some, yeah, I mean, kind of like what
I
you're
found out
doing
late.
in
I
your,
remember signing
maybe in
the
your
paperwork.
personal
But
work,
I don't think
right,
that
or
felt-
your
I signed
professional
it
position,
really
but
early.
how
I think it just.
it could
someone
relate to
said,
the work
okay, we
that
got to do
this
this for
board does,
DYCD.
right? So, you know, having some major event, there's opportunities, we can, I don't know, right? And then, so you get to learn a little bit more about who's around the table and what resources that they have. It's a great idea. I think we need a better name.
Back to another way.
It's like a spotlight.
Yeah, as a spotlight.
Yeah. I like that idea.
You can be in a position out of yourself.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be intense, it doesn't have to be like make a special presentation, just, you know.
Good conversation.
That's like another way we're thinking about DYC.
Right, no PowerPoints.
No.
Well, it could be if that's the way you want.
And someone said something about,
No, I think that's
kids
nice.
in college.
Information, so it's information sharing, right?
I was thinking, I was saying, it'd be great, I take 3-year-old
But I'm
kids to
thinking that some of
Columbia.
that dialogue, right,
We
could
take
be
them on a
like
tour of NYU.
some,
Look, City College is a great
creativity
city.
and
You know, but you don't
other
have to
ways
go
that
to
we
city.
should partner.
You know, you could go to Columbia if you start early enough. You know, and we show these
Like,
kids
I know that
what it looks like at an early age. You
I
know,
missed
by the time they get in high school, it's too
promoting an
late.
event that I was
By the time
doing
they probably middle
that
school, it's too
was
late.
focused on a high school.
You know, probably
that
after
I
5 or
worked
6,
with,
it's
and I
almost too late.
again, just got tunnel vision, and I forgot to send a note to the board saying, oh, you guys should come and check out this. I mean, it's not a DYC program, but it's a program that involves the local high school down the street from us, and they do this amazing work. Why I didn't share that, or share that with DYCD, that they could then share with other educators or youth to come. So like also, maybe the question, maybe there could be a question. I don't know who, I don't know if it's your role or executive board role, but maybe there could be some type of email that says, please let us know as a member, like as we're building the calendar, if there's anything that also from your organization that's coming up that we should also know about that are youth oriented to help get that word out. I mean, maybe there's something there, I don't know.
I know in Des Moines,
But to recap, I think, and I'm just thinking, for the, because I was saying about the, like, the long line for the city, but I do think if we could, in terms of the emails that we know, set, if they're weekly, do they come like weekly now, or is it just kind of scale up?
Whenever we
More
get
ad-hoc. So I do think if we can, and maybe it just means that, like, if it comes at like a certain time, then again, there'd be times I miss it though, but I do think, that would, because I'll be aware of it, like, it's coming today. day, did I see it, you know, something like that, so maybe like the same day every week or something like that, not the same time, you know,
Right.
it's like every Monday, I know it's concert, you know, whatever day. Yeah.
So it sounds like a central location for information.
Central location,
So you could log on and
yeah,
find out
if that is
information.
doable, if not, then no. I mean, you know, but like, I'm just thinking for the people who don't have to go, like, oh, let me scroll through my emails and try to find who it came from, because, you know, that's, who was it from? It was from Anthony, it was from the, you know, so if you want to avoid that, then like you can go to a site and just say, you're gonna email it, you know, if that's doable. If it's not, then certain time and a certain, or, you know, just.
And like a steady form of communication. Be it weekly, bi-monthly, whatever that
works for the, because I believe in less is now, like, I'm not saying send more, it's absolutely meant to be less, it's just meant to be managed around the same time. You know, so, like, for now, like, if I, like, oh, there's an event coming up, did it come, did it come, you know, so like, so that, you know, because then you can go and search your email, and you're panicking, because you're like even today, like, what time is it, you know, oh, where's this meeting? So like, if there's something that, it could just be like a Microsoft Word document that's like, here, you know, like, you don't need to
That's a
search your email,
program that's already in
something
place.
like
It's got multiple levels based on how
remember who sent it and what day it was sent.
Right. I understand. So one of the things, until we get that system up,
it's something that, you know.
right now I've been abbreviating a lot of the youth board stuff I send out, so I use YCYD on it. So that may be one way to search through certain things. So everything was coming out to youth board members. Right. And then maybe that, and I normally try to put whatever the event is in that title and subject.
Okay.
So that may be a way just for now. Until we find something else. You don't have to go through and search if it's anything, just YCYD, and you will find something close to it. At least that's what I do when I'm saying that subject. So just for me to know, could you guys let me know like some of the interests you have in different type of events or services that I can keep an eye out here at the agency and let you know, and maybe tailor it a little bit better?
And then other people will get some interest, then we go after them. You know, say, here's what your partner is. When I go to Washington, so I get one or two congresspeople sign something, then I go, I say, oh, he signed, she signed, help me out. Hey, this one signed, this one signed, help me out. You know, so it's the same sort of thing, you know, you have to build on it. We get some good modulars, then we tell it.
Well, just for example, I know a lot of times we talk about SYP, workforce, but outside that we have Compass. We have other types of engagement activities with youth, or even not youth. I mean, I know we're a youth board, but we also do community development as well. So if there's any interest that you have outside of that area, just let me know, and I can forward that information to you as well.
So are you speaking like individual interests, or are you talking about things that would be for the whole group? Because I mean, I know, like personally, like anything that's around like engaging families and opportunities for families, I'm really interested in.
Okay.
And as well as opportunities for like teenagers, right?
Individualized, because we have so many events that are happening. I don't know if it's appropriate to send it out to everybody in the group, but if I know there's something that you're interested in and I keep a database of that, then I can say, oh, here's an interest. I know you have an interest and you may be more willing to go. Instead of sending out something to the whole group, glaze over it, it's not really into your interest field, you may not think
People my age grew up
And I'm the only photographer. Hundreds.
Oh, really?
Hundreds of events a year. Like the month in June, I would say there's 5 events every single Saturday of June. Enjoy for bros.
You guys need 5 minutes, or you're ready to
Like 1 minute?
1 minute.
I think that goes back to the idea that if you know that I'm interested in the performing arts, if you send me something, then maybe I can host one of those events, and that would help. And if yours is family and teens, then if you're hosting one of those events, then you can say, that's great, I'm doing this event, this is why, and please come to that, and that can get people to come. All right, so maybe that's all right. But it is, I mean, it is a little, well, I mean, I still And constantly, oh my God, like, we do that? We have the city? Like, I have to say, like, the city needs a better PR. There's so much happening.
There is.
Until I got on this board, I didn't realize all of the amazing good work that's out there.
Yeah,
And so I think that's
the funny thing about it, the issue is what, at least for me, getting all the information out to you guys, is that I get it after the fact as well. So lots of times, I'll get an email. Last Saturday we had this big event. It's like, well, I didn't know about that.
Right.
We do have a calendar, but sometimes the calendar's not up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. It sounds like we had some good, lively discussions. So I guess we will move into our report back. Because it is a quarter to 10. So I guess we can start with our group.
If you're closer, it's easier.
So reporting out, we had discussions, I'm going to hit all the high notes. One was we discussed the considering making volunteerism a board requirement so that the board would come to one event. However, we also discussed in order to make that happen, we need to define roles for the board at each event and each opportunity for volunteerism so that the board is clear about what will be expected of them and that these opportunities will be more active than just showing up for an event. We also talked about making sure that there's board acknowledgement when you're there as part of the volunteer opportunity. Did I leave anything else? I'm just hitting high notes. Okay.
Next. So I guess we'll move to the next group at the center of the table.
Do you want to me to go?
Oh, yes, pass.
I'm just trying to, maybe I just want to have fun. Great. It was interesting hearing about what you discussed. So we were how to help DYCD with their programs and administration, which I know is of interest to everybody in the room. Just a couple of high notes from our group. One thing we talked about was tapping into college and universities for use of space and internships. We have Nancy from Fordham, we have someone else from Columbia on the board, and Anna, yeah, so we do have connections there, so maybe trying to take advantage of those. Maureen was helpful in discussing the libraries as well, both for space and for other opportunities because they're all over our city. And we also talked about technology and the importance of that. Peter kind of led that, but both in terms of getting kids involved at an early age, possible internships, and after-school programs. So those were specific things, but at a very high level, and we definitely don't want to give DYCD a to-do list, something else to do, because our job is to help them. But we did brainstorm about how they can get the word out to us about their need. So is it blasting a monthly email or an as-needed email to this group saying, you know, on the horizon in 4 months we have an event, we could use space, or you know, a call to action for everyone tapping into their networks for summer internships, or they want to develop an app and they want to tap into us to see if we can share our resources, our technical skills. So again, we don't want to do a monthly email just to do one. Maybe it's every other, or maybe it's at a board meeting, but just a mechanism for DYCD to get the word out when they need help and support.
And what I would say about these ideas, and they were all great ones, is that I think to make it work, I need to go back and talk to the team here and let them know that the youth board is interested in contributing and partnering in these ways. And if it aligns with what they're thinking about, then I think we can move forward.
That's the key thing, is if it's helpful to.
Yeah, but no, definitely, I think definitely these are good ideas, and I have to imagine our program folks are thinking about some of these things in their roles, you know, how to continue to expose them to the colleges and partnership with libraries and looking at tech and entrepreneurship. Peter, actually, you should know, we actually just had an event here where we had something called Compass Young Sharks, mod after the Shark Tank, where young people pitch their ideas to some business folks, entrepreneurs. So again, you know, I think there's definitely, I think, I think the content is there, people want to do it, it's just can you all fit it in everyone's plan.
Okay, so we were talking about how we could do deeper board engagement and engagement within the programs. And I think we all kind of touched on kind of similar things, which was about communication and responsibility and volunteerism. So we were thinking that, again, if there could be some type of central location for calendar or for sharing information, and also kind of steady communication. So be that at these board meetings of like what's coming up and what is needed from us, or if it is a monthly or a week, bi-weekly or bi-monthly, some type of steady communication of what's coming up in terms of emails. We thought about looking at these meetings, moving a quarter ahead every 3 months, identifying maybe one event and having one of our board members host an event at one of the youth board events. So identifying, oh, this is an event that's coming up, like Step It Up. So if somebody here said, oh, I will host an event at Step It Up, I'm going to ask everyone to please come to that event, and I'm going to be the host. I guarantee I can go to that, and then I can come back and report to the board, oh, this is what happened. That way we have a sense of ownership, we have a sense of responsibility, and a sense of also making these rooms more engaging, of like reporting back so that people who didn't get to come. I think what we were looking for is a chance for more organic relationships and meetings, and maybe not just having report backs. So if we can find, and it'd be really on the board to identify and to host, be the leader of making people come and inviting people and saying, sitting on calendar meetings and things of that sort. The other thing we were thinking about was maybe at these events, at our quarterly meetings, maybe doing kind of like a spotlight on a board member each meeting, so that one meeting we could talk about like, oh, this is what I've been doing at my job that's related to DYCD. And so there's a chance for me to learn a little bit more about what each individual in this room is doing, knowing a little bit more and finding different ways to connect. Because I think one of the things that we were feeling over here is that like often these meetings are just report backs, and how do we make these meetings a little more engaging, and also knowing about all the amazing resources in this room, and then thinking about how we can connect that way. So those were some of the things. Is there anything else I missed?
I guess I'll, so thank you. There clearly is a lot of resonance among the group, the groups, and there's a lot of resonance among the groups. I think really what's emerging for me is that we are on the right path, and there is a clear desire and interest to figure out how to continue to leverage all the skills and resources here and support the programming. And I think the charge from the commissioner around how we can continue to amplify the work of DYCD. I mean, this is an incredible table to do that. So I think what we will do, the executive committee will kind of sit with all your feedback and recommendations and ideas, and continue to work to figure out how to operationalize. So we will be calling on you individually over the next couple of months to continue to figure out how to push it forward, and so that there is probably we can meet the interests of having more engaging meetings. So I want to thank you all, and please encourage you to call on each other. You all have, kind of the phone trees and each other's bios in between the meeting times. We still have, programs committee, I don't know when their next meeting, but you will in July you'll receive information. And so we'll be in touch. So thank you. Have a great summer. We'll be talking to you, and great work today.
Thank you. That was good.
Thank you.